Hi everyone, it's Ray with the Swirly Doos Kit Club Education Team, and welcome to my tutorial on this wall hanging that I made using the Swirly Doos November kit, and you can get this kit right now at swirlydoos.com in the store. So this is a wall hanging that I made using the November Technique kit, as well as some bits and pieces from the main kit and some lace that I used from my stash. And this month the Technique kit is featuring Gelatos by Faber-Castell, and I use those two different ways on my wall hanging, and I'll just give you a little bit of a close-up here. I used it on the cardboard that also came in the kit to color it, and I also used it on this wood flourish by Kaisercraft that's also in the kit. So I used it two different ways, and I'm going to show you how to do both of those techniques as well as also compiling all of the stuff to make this wall hanging. So the wall hanging you just saw was a 10-inch circle, but I'm going to try to recreate this. I'm also going to be using some different things from the kit. I'm going to try to keep it as same as possible, but I can't really do that because I don't have enough of the paper and enough of the flourishes, but you'll still get the idea on how to do it. So we're going to start with cardboard. You're going to make your cardboard look like this. You're just going to tear up the individual pieces. And we're going to start with the layering by putting some molding paste on there. The molding paste comes in your kit, and you just want to take a palette knife or a popsicle stick, pretty much whatever you have, and you're just creating a good base for the gelatos. This molding paste is very thick, and it's going to keep any sort of design or lines that you put into it, so if you make brush strokes, it's going to stay exactly like that when it dries. It won't settle, and it's going to be a wonderful base for the gelatos. And I don't really mind if it's not getting all over inside of the corrugated area. It's okay if it's left blank. It's just going to add to the character of the shabbiness of it all. So after you get done with that, you're going to want to dry it. I'm going to hit mine with a heat gun for a few minutes. So this is mostly dry. I've hit it with a heat gun for just a few minutes. There's still a couple of spots that are a little damp. I'm going to give it some time to dry and set him over here while we move on to the next step. So this is mostly dry. I've hit it with a heat gun for just a few minutes. There's still a couple of spots that are a little damp. I'm going to give it some time to dry and set him over here while we move on to the next. Some paper layers. You can see in this example that there are 2 sheets of paper on this wall hanging, and I've distressed the heck out of them, for lack of a better way to say that. And what I've done doing that is these are the same exact size as the cardboard. So this is a 10-inch, and this is an 8-inch. So I'm going to do some 8-inch pieces of paper, and this is going to be the basic design for this one, and it has all of the same elements as the larger one that's already completed. So I'm going to take 2 sheets of paper and distress them. And I've already done this one. I started by using some ink, and then I used my Prima Distress tool, and I just mangled the edges just in any sort of fashion. It makes no difference. You're just trying to basically obliterate the edges, and you want to do that so you can see the cardboard underneath it. We want that part to be exposed all around, and you can see that that's getting there. And I just need to do a little bit more, and I'm going to use this cardboard as a guide for this one. And after I've distressed a little bit, I can still make some rips and pull up the paper. And just distress it with my fingers there. And I think that looks pretty good. I'm still going to be able to roll this once it's glued on and just kind of see where I want that to go. There's no rhyme or reason to that. It's just whatever looks good to me. So how I got this is first I did the distress inks. I used 2 different colors of brown. This one is the frayed burlap. Get that off of there. And I go deep into the circle at first, about 1.5 inches all the way around. I'm not measuring that, it's just how much I think it is. I'm just going to go around the edges with the darker distress ink, not as far in, after I get done doing this part. And the darker color that I'm using is Vintage Photo. Now I'm going to use my Prima Distress tool, and I'm also going to use this small little mat, that way I don't ruin my larger mat or obviously my craft sheet. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to go in, starting at the end of the paper and pushing in. So I'm pretty happy with the way these are. The rips are corresponding with the different layers. It doesn't need to be perfect, but that's pretty much how I want it. But I want to do one last thing with the distressing, and let me show you what that is. On my first wall hanging, I made a rip right in the middle of the paper like that, and I'm going to do that with this one too. And I've marked the spot very lightly with pencil on where I want it to be. And I'm just going to take the Prima Distress tool and I'm going to do an up and down motion until the paper is going away. That's a pretty good rip right there. And I think that's going to look quite nice on there. And then the next thing you want to do when you get done with all of this distressing is that you see all of this white here that you've exposed using the distress tool. You kind of want to get rid of that, or not kind of, you do, you want to get rid of that. And you can do that by simply using the distress ink again with the blending foam. Going back in. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just getting rid of the starkness of that white. Definitely don't want it to look like we just made it. We want it to look like it's old. And you don't have to get too detailed with this. Just go in very quickly and get it done. And that's also a nice way to roll the paper again too, just to add some more mangleness to it, for lack of a better way to say it. But try not to roll too hard because we don't want to take off too much of the little fuzzy parts of the paper. I keep those on there. And give it one good rub right there in the middle. Right. And those are the paper layers. So my modeling paste is dry now, and I'm going to add the gelatos. You can see they're just a pigment stick for the most part. They look like chapstick. They feel like chapstick. And they're going to glide on very easy onto the modeling paste. And I'm going to go for an array of colors. You get 6 in the kit, but I'm only using these 3. I have a good healthy amount on there. I'm going to blend that with my fingers. It can either dry, you can either blend it dry or you can use water to make it blend. We're going to do both on this one. Get a little bit of a darker blue on there. I'm not going for a completely blended look. I'm okay with it being different colors of blue. And while I like this color, it does not really match with my project, so I'm going to ink it up. And I'm going to use the Vintage Photo Distress ink to do that. When I put it on here, oh, look at that. It has this nice brown overtone over the blue. None of the blue is getting lost, and none of the white is getting lost. But it's completely changing the hue of the blue and adding a worn look to the white. And by the way, this blending foam is now ruined, or you want to just keep it for your blue gelatos, because if you put this back on the paper, it's going to have a blue hue to it. But what I found is it does not stick on the Distress ink pad, so that's great. And if you think that it might, you can just take a baby wipe and wipe over it, and anything that you think is on there is going to come off. So I like how that looks. You can still see some of the white. The blue is a complete grungy color now, and I love it. But I want to layer it, so I'm going to mist it with water. What I mean by layering is I want to layer these colors. I want to take some of the blue off and also some of the Distress ink to expose the lighter. So I've taken some water and lifted the colors off that I put on there, and I'm going to basically repeat this with the gelatos and with the ink again. But this time I'm not going to put water on there to wipe it off. Going back in with my Distress ink. And this time, instead of using water, I'm going to use some Smooch Spritz that comes in the Technique kit. It's vanilla shimmer. My bottle is bigger than the one that you get in the kit because I accidentally broke mine, but I have some of this vanilla shimmers. So I'm going to give it a good healthy coating. It's going to give it that pearlescent shine. And then I'm going to hit it with a heat gun. So on the wall hanging that I already made, you can see this is the flourish. And I don't have another one of those, but I do have some other Kaisercraft wood. and they are some rose leaves. So I already played around with this. This is what I did first when I was just experimenting. And let me show you how I did it. I want these leaves to be green, but we don't have any green gelatos, so I'm going to make my own sort of mixture here. It's not going to be a gelato mixture, but it's going to be a mixture of gelatos and some distress ink and some smooch spritz again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by scribbling some of this white onto my craft sheet. And then I'm going to use two different colors of distress ink, and here's why. I have this peeled paint one, but it's kind of bright, and I don't really want that to be the color on my project. And I have this forest moss color, but it's also pretty dark, and I don't want that either. So I'm going to blend them together. I'm just going to rub these onto the craft sheet, close to the gelatos. I'm going to spray some smooch spritz. And my goal is to cover as much of it as I can without spraying a lot. About 3 good mists is good enough. The more you put on there, the more diluted your color is going to be. So I'm just going to mix this all together. Making an opaque green. You get this brush in the Technique kit too. It comes with the gelatos. It's a pretty hefty brush. And I don't want it completely blended. If there's some darker parts and some lighter parts mixed in there, I'm totally fine with that. It'll give it a variegated look. And then I'm just going to smush my wood around into the mixture, picking up as much as I can, as much as the wood will absorb, I should say. And it's going to look like that. And that's going to dry in just a couple seconds. You won't even need to hit it with a heat gun. It will totally dry on its own, and that's it. So with the white gelato, you can get pretty much an opaqueness with your distress inks. I'm sure there's 1,000 other things you can do with it to color it, but that's the one that I discovered. So now we have everything that it's ready to assemble. So I'm going to start with the cardboard, the bottom layer. And then I'm going to take some Fabri-Tac, which is my very favorite glue, and stick on the paper layers. Double checking to make sure I have that right. Okay. And you can see on this paper that it has lines. I want those lines to match up with the cardboard. I don't want to put it like that. I want to just make sure that I have it straight. It'll look better if you do it like that. And do it again with this paper layer. Lined up, and I'm just going to take a couple sections of these and just roll them so I can see how much of the cardboard that I'm exposing here. Oh, it looks awesome. And these are the papers that are from the main kit. These ones are from the Creative Imaginations Gallivant line. And I'm going to start by putting some lace on, and it's going to be nearly the same as this one. I'm going to use the same lace for that. And the best way to put lace on for a circle, especially when it has these loops here, is to cut these ends, and that way you can put it around. It will sit flat on here instead of trying to come over the top of it. So I'm just going to take a little bit of glue. at a time. I don't want to go all the way around because I don't want to get the rest of the lace in there, and I'm pretty clumsy with that sort of stuff, so that will definitely happen to me. And now I'm going to put the cord on the back, and I'm going to do that using a stapler. I have the Tim Holtz Tiny Attacher, and I'm going to lift up my layers of paper a tiny bit. Put the cord on the back. And staple it. I used a frame from the paper, which is the Kaisercraft Periwinkle paper in the main kit. There's a sheet of paper that looks like this. For this one, I have used the top one, and I've cut out this piece of paper in the middle because I don't like the color. It doesn't match with what I want to do. So I used another tiny piece of the Creative Imaginations Gallivant, which also comes in there. And I've already put it together. I just cut out a spot, hoping for the best, and then I trimmed around. I don't measure. And then I used a rub-on, which comes in the main kit. You get this package of rub-ons. And I liked Imagine because it kind of goes with the map theme there. So I'm just going to see where I want everything to be. And there you have it. So this is what the other one looks like. That's the 10-inch one, and this is the 8-inch one. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial, and I hope that you decide to purchase the kit at swirlydoos.com. You can find this tutorial along with a bunch of others on swirlydoos.com in the tutorial section, so go ahead and check it out, and happy crafting!